Well, thank you for being with me. I appreciate so much your interest in this video series, how we can, as God's people, as Christians, share the good news of Jesus Christ. I refer you to the first video in the series, Exercising Our Evangelism Muscles. If you've not watched that video, I encourage you to watch it and to think about with me how we can simply practice the things that are necessary for us as Christians to share the good news. So, the first video in the series is entitled Exercising Your Evangelism Muscles. Second video, this video, continuing the series, you can share the good news of Jesus Christ. I want to suggest 5 things that will help keep you on track, will help you understand where a conversation is going and how it's advancing, how to share your faith. SHARE. Well, here's something we need to understand. Spiritual questions lead to spiritual conversations. To effectively share our faith, we must keep in mind the importance of asking questions. And also, the one who asks questions is the one who directs or leads a conversation. I like to ask questions because asking questions makes it more likely that I will listen and that I will develop listening skills. Those listening skills are not always natural for all of us. Some of us like to talk. So, even though it may seem counterintuitive to us, sharing faith begins with listening. Sharing faith with other people, personal settings, requires that we listen to them. And even the fact that we are thinking about asking questions and listening, those complement one another. But we're wanting to know, where is the hurt? Where is the need? Where is the curiosity? Where is the interest? Where is the point of entry for the gospel? So, about 40 years ago, as I was a young minister, thinking about ways I could hone my ministry skills, how could I facilitate and enable the growth of the local church, I was introduced to this concept of spiritual conversations. Sharing the gospel with other people begins with spiritual conversations. I've always wondered what would happen if a church consistently, of all of the things that we can measure dollars, we can measure attendance, someone said noses and nickels. There are a lot of things we can measure. But what would happen if we attempted to encourage and to get a handle on, get our minds wrapped around the number of spiritual conversations that are occurring in a local church week after week? Well, when I became aware of this concept, I began to practice trying to turn conversations with other people into spiritual conversations. It took some time to understand how the process works. I studied communication, thought about motivations for spiritual conversations, wrote lists of spiritual conversation starters. You will find on my website a list of spiritual conversation starters. I'll share my website as I conclude this video. I was trying to learn how to include spiritual conversations or elements of spiritual conversations in as many conversations as possible throughout the day. So here's the question. What if our goal, as we think about sharing the gospel, what if our goal is not to make conversation, but is to make a difference? What if there were an easy way for us to stay on track, know where we are, make spiritual conversations a part of our daily lives? Well, I believe that's possible. I believe if we learn how to share, we will be able to initiate more and more spiritual conversations. Now, it's easy to say that, but let me make it memorable. I'm going to suggest to you 5 aspects of this word share. How do we go about sharing our faith? Well, the first thing is that we are, as we go out, seeking and attempting to see those with interest in spiritual matters. Jesus came seeking the lost. We go out each day, we could say, on the lookout. We are as scouts. We are constantly surveying the territory. We're seeking people for Jesus. And we're seeking to find those who have interest in spiritual matters. And so the fact that we go out seeking the lost means that we have to check their interest. We have to find out where's the interest, what's going on. So we're asking questions, we're listening, we're opening doors. As we seek, we must develop eyes that see and listen to the stories of others so I can have a better idea how to develop their interest in spiritual things. So the first thing is I'm looking. I'm seeking those who would be interested in spiritual conversations. I'm testing. I'm testing the waters. I'm on the lookout. I call it seeking with eyes that see. Second matter, very simply, we have to hear. Being a good listener does not come naturally for many of us. We've been taught that evangelism involves talking, not listening, but I think we earn the right to talk. We want to identify with the life experiences of other people, so we have to listen. We have to hear. Since we want to share the benefits of being a Christian, we're learning which benefits of following Jesus will be most attractive to a person with whom we're talking. So, very simply, we go forth, we're seeking, we have our antenna up, we're listening, and so we are able to analyze. Because we go out with our spiritual antenna up, we're always analyzing what's going on around us. We want to listen to others, we're hearing others, we listen attentively, and when we really listen, we can analyze. We can evaluate needs, we can connect with those needs. An important part of analyzing the conversations, our relationships, the people with whom we interact, is knowing what's going on in their lives spiritually. Spiritual perception. I like to call it evangelistic perception. How do you perceive the spiritual condition of the heart of another person? Well, you ask questions, you listen. You go forth seeking, seeing what you can see, listening, and perceiving what's going on. A biblical passage that would give helpful orientation to us in this subject is the parable of Jesus with the sower and the soils. We're not going to study that parable here, but I recommend for your own personal study, if you want to think about analyzing, how do you recognize people whose lives are filled with distractions and thorns and all kinds of things choking out the word? Who are those in the life of another person who are snatching away the seed? What makes it difficult to hear? What kinds of experiences, life experiences, make it difficult to hear? Where is good soil? Seeing, hearing, analyzing, recognizing different kinds of hearts, recognizing and acknowledging objections, practicing reflective listening, reinforcing the connection between the gospel and the needs that are being presented to us. I could give you a number of words that begin with R, but I like to summarize them simply by saying, as we analyze, we have to seek recognition. We have to try to know, try to understand. And then finally, I'm going to give you an option. In a number of cases, the most appropriate last step will be to simply encourage future contacts. Try to encourage future conversations. Remember what you're hearing. The next time you interact with that person, be ready to ask. So a part of it may simply be encouraging. We may want to ask for more details. We may want to set up a future meeting. We may want to clarify something that was said, expand something that was said. But the goal is always to establish a connection or a relationship, a bridge across which the gospel can travel. Now, in some cases, a person may be ready for us to move to evangelism. What does that mean? It means the appropriate next step is to establish a Bible study. Sharing the gospel inevitably involves studying the Bible. The authority or the power behind the gospel is Jesus Christ, the Word of God, the Word of Christ. It's not my explanation of the gospel. I can explain the gospel and tell people where the verses are, but when people read those verses for themselves, we see the power of the Word of God. So here it is in a very easy summary. I think it's memorable. Seek, hear, analyze, recognize, and you will be equipped to make a good decision. Is the need more encouragement Or is it time to establish the study and begin the process of sharing the good news? In this day of social media, mobile devices, simply having in-person conversations is a bit unusual, and it's also refreshing. Many hunger and thirst for a personal touch. May we as God's people never forget how to approach another person and how to have a meaningful spiritual conversation. I pray that these ideas might be helpful to you. I promise to share my website, bobyoungresources.com. Under the ministry area of evangelism, you'll find a number of other helps. I'll be praying that you might find courage, that you might find help in these simple concepts to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Good news, exercising our evangelism muscles, it is possible for us to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Again, my prayers for you, may God bless us as we seek to go forth, blessing others because we have been blessed in Jesus Christ, sharing the good news because it has made all the difference in our own lives. Until our next study, God bless.